All right, for everybody who doesn't know who you are, and I'm sure everybody in this community who's been watching this video knows who you are, you want to introduce yourself real quick to everybody?
Yes, I'm Jay Parrish. I'm the police chief for the city of Gainesville. I'm a longtime Gainesvillian, 49 years old, and spent my whole life here. Born and raised here, born at our hospital, and so Gainesville is truly my hometown.
Absolutely. So, I didn't even. So it was about 6 months ago. Doug Hanson sent me this text. Has it been 6 months? I meant to go back and look before we started talking. It's like, you got to meet this chief of police, and I tell the story a lot about how working in Atlanta for so long, like the chief of police, you just typically think is your adversary, right? And when it comes to working with those in homelessness, so I kind of drug my feet on it. I think he sent me. He called me. He's like, "Listen, you got to meet. Here's his number. He's expecting you to call," which is what Doug does. He does a real good job, like, greasing those wheels. Like, oh, I got to call him. So I went. And we had coffee. I was like, maybe he won't respond, man. Maybe he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. He don't want to talk to me anymore. He wants to. Then I want to talk to him. So we'll go. So we went and met, and we had coffee. And you're thinking. My whole point of meeting that day was just to get to know you,
right?
Maybe to feel you out a little bit, to see, because Doug had said, "Hey, listen, this guy's an advocate. He's going to be on your side." And I'm like, "All right, let me see what that means. Police chief advocate.
Right.
What's that mean? Like, So I went and I met with you, and really, I started thinking back before we started filming. I was like, every bit of this Unity project really just started coming from us just kind of venting about a lot of stuff we were seeing, and not even what we were seeing, but like how close the possibility was there.
Correct.
If we could take some steps. And we threw some stuff out there, walked away, didn't think anything of it. And man, from that day, this thing has just gone from 0 to 60 so fast. And now I talk to you probably more than I talk to anybody else, which is hilarious. Right. And now the biggest factor of the success of this program is going to be the police department and all the support you do. So I want to do a couple things first. I kind of want to set the stage. There's some people that are going to be watching this that thought like I thought before, which is the police department is our enemy. They think homelessness is a criminalization issue. You lock up the problems, and everybody out there's a deadbeat that's just needs to be cleaned up for the citizens. But there's a couple things I want you to talk a little bit about your philosophy on that, and then I also want to lean into your mental health clinicians, because that is just an amazing thing that I think was when I really got the hang of what you were doing. It just blows me away. But tell me a little bit about your philosophy on this, and your as chief, what your approach to all this is.
Yeah, appreciate all that. And Doug he was the connector, friend of mine, and he's like, hey, I need you to meet Michael. He's executive director over at North Georgia Works, and I've always known how passionate Doug was, not just about homelessness. I mean, that's a guy that literally has gone out and found somebody that wandered away and brought them back. He's got a passion. And so when he says, I need you to meet with Michael, I knew that I had to meet with Michael. I couldn't give Doug another answer.
Neither could I.
But also, Gainesville's my hometown. And living in Gainesville and seeing this problem grow and grow, I love seeing the growth of our city. I know that a lot of people that are longtime Gainesvillians don't like seeing the growth, but I do. I love what downtown has become. I love who we've become as a community. It's very diverse. And just to see that, I think is pretty cool. Matter of fact, sometimes I envision that's what heaven's going to be like.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of different people with a lot of different thoughts, but we have one common thing. But as you said, historically, and I think across the United States, a lot of people either look at it, and I'm not faulting them or law enforcement, but that law enforcement is the adversary, because with homelessness does come crime.
Correct.
It's hard to bifurcate the two. But it's because they're at the bottom of Maslow's triangle. And that's kind of, you asked me where my theories come from. I look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs a lot in my mind. And when you need food, water, shelter, you don't think through anything else. So as a police chief, I look at our crimes, and I'm just the kind of person that I'm the butterfly effect. I don't look at the hurricane, but what started the winds.
Correct.
And as I drill down, this poverty and homelessness is bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And churches and nonprofits are the key to solving these problems, not government. As a government employee, government's really good at messing things up. only because our wheels turn very slow. And this whole project has blown me away because I've been working on I've been working on government timelines for so long.
I wish we'd
that
had
it's just like we're in warp speed, right? But that meeting, going back to that meeting and my philosophy, it was anybody that will touch this issue is my ally and advocate. I don't care how you want to go about it. And I didn't clone this term, a coworker did, but like Gainesville is resource rich and coordination poor. And I've been saying that for 7 years now. And we keep trying to coordinate. We keep trying to coordinate efforts, but some entities are so territorial of what they do, and I get it. Especially if you're a nonprofit, you're competing for the same donor dollars. But when you look at what collaboration does and what putting all these people in the same room that get on the same sheet of music. So the second part, Michael, I just prayed about it a lot. Like, how can we help these people? Because you cannot arrest your way out of any problem. We never arrested our way out of the drug problems. We haven't arrested our way out of homicides. Like, whatever the crime is, we can't arrest our way out of it. We can only help the individual person. And when you shared your philosophies with me of how we could do the Unity Project, of course, we didn't call it that.
Nope. No.
And you used the term in the lead in there of venting. I remember thinking to myself, Jay, you better be careful because you're venting to this guy and you're saying things you might not need to be saying, and you're trusting that he's not going to tell anybody how aggravated you are. And I was just aggravated about how we couldn't come together because, as you said, it was like we were looking out of a building at this beautiful city that we couldn't have. And right after that, I was like, hey, we got people that are ready to come to the table, that are ready to step up with human resources, financial resources, and real estate. And if we can just get them all at the table, we can at least start this. I like what my boss says. Sometimes we feel like we're building a plane as we fly it. But we got to get in the air.
We've been quoting that a lot the last couple of days.
Yeah. So that's kind of my philosophy is we gotta attack this thing as a community approach, not a cop approach. So a lot of it is just my passion. And guess what? If we can fix some of these things, I'm not looking into, I don't have this vision that, next year everything's going to be better. There will be no homelessness. I get it. But if we can start to help, as Jesus said, the least of these, it helps me professionally because the crime rate's naturally going to go down.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to have the stealing. We're not going to have the internautos, the assaults, the things that happen in these encampments. The stats inside these encampments for violent crimes and even petty crimes is mind-boggling. Yeah. And those are only reported. Yeah. I can't imagine what goes on.
A lot more. Well, that's a good point I was going to talk about next. So, we talk about coming together. Right. The reality is, I tell everybody when we speak, sometimes, especially in ministry, God kind of has to do something. A lot of times, it's as sad as it is, has to do something horrible to kind of galvanize us all together. We're seeing that a lot across our country right now with things like the Charlie Kirk thing, like how it can, those kind of situations can kind of force you to rethink and kind of wake up to some things. And we all, on our side and your side and the city side, we all had that moment with this Flat Creek camp, which is, I want to talk a little bit about, because it just is something that, honestly, is a little abnormal even for me to see something that big, that well maintained, that well governed, and supported, for better or for worse, right? I kind of want to stand down there and just hand out copies of When Helping Hurts to everybody who walks through. Yes. But let's talk a little bit about that encampment, because that encampment itself, it really was kind of the canary in the coal mine that said we all got to do something, or this problem's going to take over us. Like, the problem solving itself, just not in a way that's productive for anybody. So tell me a little bit about your experience there, your experience with the city's kind of struggles with that.
Right. So for the last 10 years, so that land is a sewer right of way, or it's not right of way. We own the property. We, the city, had to acquire that property, and it's a very large sewer line that carries not just normal household sewage, but from industry. There's a lot of industry around there. All that goes down to our Flat Creek treatment plant, which is 4 or 5 miles away from there. Major sewer line. And so nothing will ever be there. Plus, it's a floodplain. There's no value to the land. And over time, because from Atlanta Highway back over to Dorsey Street, that just kind of became a cut through, people started an encampment there. It would be 5 or 6. it wasn't huge things. But as other camps happened on private property, and they got shut down because the private property owners see it, homelessness is growing, both from home and people coming there from other communities. It became an area that was safe to go to because it wasn't a city park. It wasn't somebody's private property. Yeah. It was a floodplain. It was a sewer line, and so the encampment grew and grew. We knew it was growing, but at the same time, there was some policy decisions that they got to go somewhere, and that's city property. Who cares? Well, the people that started caring were the businesses, the community around it that became affected by it. Petty crime started. And Atlanta Highway is all a retail boulevard, right? It's full of retail. And the business owners really started complaining because of the panhandling and stuff and the customer harassment that would happen in the parking lots. Our calls for service started going up for that alone. And then there's just, we started having drug overdoses in the camp. Countless number of drug deals happening at the camp. Things that when you had a small population of really impoverished people that needed our help, others came and preyed on them. And as other camps shut down, like I said, that's where they would go, and it grew and grew. And yeah, it comes to a time that you're like, hey, this can't. And you talked about how well governed it is. I think what a lot of people don't understand is when those communities pop up, they have their own set of rules and laws. There's an enforcer in that, and we've seen it at every one of our encampments. Somebody rises to the enforcer level. Somebody is controlling the human trafficking, the prostitution, the things like the servitude that happens in those camps. When we can rescue somebody and they finally tell us the stories, it's so heartbreaking. But somebody is going to profit off somebody else's misfortune. And what I don't think several of our community members not in this work, not in this space, what I don't think they see is how when you got such a vulnerable population, how crafty some of these criminals are that somebody may see as just another homeless person, but they're predators, and they are preying on those vulnerable, and that began to grow and grow in the camp.
Yeah, that's what we say is where there's prey, there's predators.
That's right.
And so, that camp down there, I think I'd love especially for the city to know, it gets such a bad reputation. And what I want to reframe it to some extent, and I know that's working with you and your team too, is there's a real understanding that there are people there that got trapped.
That's right.
We need community as humans. We build it. Sometimes it's not the best community, but when you don't have family,
right.
You don't have, you do it. You kind of create this, especially on the street. You kind of create this street family, this street community, and then of course people then can easily come on there and take advantage of that, and then it starts entrapping people with drugs and prostitution. Right. And the next thing you know, it's out of your control.
That's right.
It's just it's a jail without a warden, and then it grows from there, and then it's just doing more harm. But there are legitimately people who want to get help there, but that's it. They're trapped.
That's right. And I'll say this too. During the time this encampment was growing, the city as a whole, both from our mayor, our council, our city management, police chief, all of us, were trying to find the right lock for the key we were holding, right? It wasn't that we're just oblivious to it. There was constant efforts, but as I said, as we started, the government wheels turn slow sometimes. And as things would get moving and we would, the meetings after meetings of getting people together, things would fall apart. Well, as you're doing that, it's like having a disease that you're not treating because you're trying to find the right medicine before you take it, right? And the problem was growing. And I'll go back to Maslow's triangle to what you just said, Michael. Once they're getting food, water, and shelter, because there's a lot of handout down there, right? People are giving them clothes, they're giving them tents, they're giving them sleeping bags, they're giving them food. So they're getting those necessities. Well, the next step is belonging. And you're right. They don't have family, or their family's tired of dealing with their mental health issues, with their drug addiction, so they've alienated them. Well, now they belong to somebody. Even if it's servitude, they belong to somebody, and everybody wants belonging. And so they would just submit to that belonging. And we've rescued some from that. We've had some that did, it's, I would say, more on the female side, but it is on the male side too, where they got arrested or they came into our custody for some reason or another, and then open up to us about how they were preyed upon, how they were required to do X, Y, and Z to stay in the encampment. Sometimes it was as simple as we need more supplies, so you're going to go out on the street and beg.
Yeah.
And I get 10% of your cut.
Correct.
And, you know, I'm
That's
the
the
enforcer.
entrapment.
And if
The
you
next
don't,
Yep.
then I'm going to beat the snot out of you,
Yep.
and you're going to be in the hospital. So
there's
you choose.
There's the entrapment.
Right.
And yeah, belonging is a great way of, I forget about that part of it, but yeah, then you almost feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
That's
so
right.
You do.
And now your mind is, I'm going to use the word warped, but that's how your mind is programmed to think this is life.
Correct.
And this is not life. There's better opportunity out there.
Well, speaking of better opportunity and talking about what the city did before, that's a good segue to the Unity Project. We talked about the day we talked and we vented that day. I think the frustration that we had wasn't that we were mad at the situation, but I think the Unity Project has, especially they're talking about moving at warp speed, has proven that we were so close.
That's right.
This wasn't okay, well, no one's done anything, so where do we start? When me and you talked that day, we were both kind of had ideas and were working different angles. And it wasn't until we kind of came together and realized, oh, wait a minute, there are a lot of people who are all individually trying.
That's right.
Or have tried or have done, but no one's done all of it all at one time,
That's right.
all together under one roof. Let's start moving towards that, right? And so, and that normally a lot of times, sadly, the project part is not the hard part; it's the unity, right? And it can be tough getting everybody together. A lot of different opinions and a lot of there's a lot of resources and decisions. But let's talk about how fast. Especially on the city side. I want to talk about the city first because on our side, the nonprofit side, I think there's a natural, I don't want to say skepticism. That sounds too harsh, but on the cuff, I can't think of a better word. That says that the city is, they're not really going to openly allow us to deal with this. Right? Like if I go, try to open a building, I'm going to get NIMBY lawed to death.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And I'm going to have protests in front of my thing, and I'm going to have 1,000 reasons why I can't do this, or zoning, or fire marshal, or code enforcement, or just a billion reasons, right? So, we all on the ministry side, especially, we're kind of trying to do stuff, but we needed that push. And I remember talking to Brian, and one of the things that he was saying was, "Hey, listen." We got a lot of energy, but not a lot of times we're just kind of missing a plan, right? So the plan me and you kind of started working on was a lot of like this, well, we need this resource center. We need this you are here kind of moment. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm just giving you all some basic idea. I'm not thinking we're actually going to do this, right? But the city took the proposal and immediately was like, what do you need?
That's right.
And so speak a little bit about that, because I think that's still to this day. I really thought, best case scenario, I would have heard, that's a good idea. Let's do that in 7 to 10 years. We got this lot, eventually Gainesville will expand so far that we can put it in Blue Ridge and still be considered, in the mountains somewhere, out of city limits, and then that's when we'll do it. But it was like, what do you need? Let's go.
I'm all about a 7 to 10 year plan because I'll be retired by then.
Okay.
But no, it'll always be my hometown, always be my problem. So when we first realized, just like anything, the problem was there before we realized we needed to address it. Not at the magnitude, and I'm talking about homelessness. From 2014-15, we saw it growing. You can talk to anybody to get their own opinion, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's opioid crisis. There's
all of the above.
It's just everything, right? COVID didn't help. We've always been trying to figure out what would be our best role in that space as a government, as a local government, because that's who the community is going to look to fix it, right? They want the government to come in and fix it. That when the homeless issues are running into my business, I'm not calling North Georgia Works. Like, hey, you help homelessness. Why are y'all not over here doing this? You call the police. Yeah. So several of us in the city official realm started looking not just locally at other programs. We went nationally. A delegation went out to Colorado Springs and saw the Springs mission. We went to Austin, Texas. We went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, Greenville. We went all over the place to see what other governments were doing in those roles. And even on our trip to Austin, we visited 3 towns north of Austin that would sit like Gainesville does to Atlanta to see how those agencies were dealing with things and those governments were. And somehow we landed on a day center. If we could have a place for daytime that they could go to whether it's cold outside, hot outside, it's climate controlled. They could wash their clothes, they could take showers, charge their phones, all the things that are happening on private property that's causing issues. If we could build somewhere, but then came the question, what are they going to do at night? What are we going to do with them tonight at 5, 6, 7 o'clock when the day center closes? And that was the plan we were working towards, and it just didn't, for many reasons, happen. As the decision is being made that, hey, and you know, the elephant in the room, there was really one place in Gainesville that this could
Correct.
happen.
Yes, absolutely.
One property owner.
Learned that the hard way.
That's already zoned
Yep.
for sheltering of homelessness and that kind of thing, because, again, not in my backyard, all those people,
Absolutely.
if we try to do it anywhere else, are coming out. And that is the Unity Project building on Dorsey Street now, across from Good News at Noon. That was the space we were headed towards, but we also knew we needed a resource center. How can we take everybody that's now that's now part of the Unity Project, and people that don't know that they're a part of the Unity Project that are going to be a part of the Unity Project? How do we get them all under one roof?
Yeah.
So the city bought some property over there that will one day house all these resources, but we can start somewhere. We can start in the Unity Project building, and then hopefully we envision one day that becomes a Tier 1 shelter all in and of itself. And then you have the Salvation Army there. You have Good News at Noon across the street, which are both, programmatic based centers. Not necessarily the Salvation Army being programmatic based, but each one of those entities do what they do. We needed somewhere just to get them out of the encampments. And it was just a timing issue. And I've seen this over and over in my career. When things start to happen, you can't control the timing. It's a God thing.
Yeah.
And it was right after we met, and I'm like, Michael has had all these conversations. I've had all these conversations. If we can just get the right people talking. There's a lot of talking, but the right people. And I think that was what a few of our next texts and calls were about.
Yes.
We need this person to talk. We need this person to talk. And since I began as the police chief, and even before, I've always been very humbled and felt like I have a lot more time than money. So at any given time, I'm serving on 4 or 5 nonprofit
Yeah,
boards.
I'm starting to feel some kind of way that you weren't on ours.
Never been asked. But, it's like I finally get done with one nonprofit and the phone rings. I'm like, okay, I'll serve there. I just love serving in the nonprofit arena because to me, that's where the hands and feet of God are. And I was fortunate enough to be on Good News at Noon's board at this time, and we're able to share some of these visions. God opened the door, and I think it really took us like 5 days to. It was a lot of conversation, maybe a couple of months of conversation.
It was.
But from the time we said this is a go, I think it was 5 days till the ink was on the paper that this was a go.
Yeah.
And you know what? Real estate tycoons don't work that fast.
No, I'm trying. We're on camera, so I won't panic openly about the time frame.
Right.
In fact, I tell everybody in our group, like, the one mechanism I had to keep this under control is I didn't have the funding yet, so I had to I had a lot of people who promised funding, so I was going to work towards it. And then we go to that meeting on Tuesday. It's like, by the way, here you go, blank
and
check.
I want to come back to that because another piece of this for city involvement, and as a police chief, where my role came in, we could have gone and cleared that encampment a year ago, 2 years ago. The question began, what do you do with those people? You're just moving the problem. You have no solution. So go clear the encampment. They're going to go somewhere else.
Yep.
You're going to get calls, and it's whack-a-mole. The Unity Project gave us the solution. Now I don't lose sleep at night because if someone turns down the help that the Unity Project is offering, that's on them.
Yep.
That's on them. Like, the help is there. We'll have in a couple of months, sheltered space. It's a lot nicer than a tent. It's climate controlled. Is it the best in the world? No, but it shouldn't be, because we want people to want better.
Yep.
And I know there's a housing crisis, but we're so far from getting people to that part that we'll worry about that when we get there.
That's exactly what I'm saying. One step at a time. Right now, we got to connect, and I do want to come back to your mental health clinicians, but you have mental health issues we've got to fix. We have addiction issues we have to fix. We have trauma issues we got to fix. We got a lot of work to do before we can put anybody in a house and say, hey, by the way, here's the keys.
That's right.
You're on your own, right? We got years worth of support we got to offer. So we buying ourselves some time on that front. And honestly, I'm getting maybe ahead of myself, but that's part of what we're doing with what we're all doing right now. The core of us that are kind of working on this Unity project realize that this is just step one in if we can prove to the community, and I do want to, because I want to touch on Good News a little bit too, and your role with them and how supportive they've been, especially if North Georgia Works, and us two ministries kind of coming together to kind of spearhead something like this that shows that if the church and the ministry will take the lead instead of sitting back going, hey, what are you going to get?
That's right.
If you give me X, I might do Y.
Right.
As opposed to, we're going to do X, and we're going to do it. We're just going to do it because that's what God tells us to do, and that's what Jesus wants us to do. We should be the answer to your problem. You shouldn't be coming to us.
That's right.
We should be coming to you for the
That's
solution. But then on the other side of that is, well, now what else should we do next? What resources do we want to do now that we've done some work? We've seen, if I come back in 6 months and go, hey, this city needs a long-term rehabilitation center, or a certain, whatever I say, that carries a lot of weight all of a sudden because the ministry is out doing the work.
We're already doing the work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think about that with the donations we got because the people that are supporting this already have already supported the work already. They know it's already being done. So one thing I want to talk about too is I believe we talk a little bit about how the Unity Project was a solution, but there's a cross in this Unity for a reason. Like at the end of the day, we have a job to do, me and you both, and that job is to help the vulnerable. Well, that's not all your job, but in this situation, it's to help clean up the city, make sure that people have opportunities. We don't want those kind of encampments because we want better for people. We've talked about that. But I remember when we sat down, and I've had a lot of connection with your board too. Obviously, Tim's son being in our program and all, and I felt strongly that there was a desire to do something. And if I'm being honest, I feel like the enemy was kind of using the lack of the church's response to this situation to kind of grow some of the problems we were having, right? Like a lot of what I see going down on that encampment, the church wasn't addressing it correctly. Other opportunities were being created to kind of feed it.
That's right.
And it kind of took on a life of its own in that sense, and it really felt to me like there was a real burden that, as ministries in this organization, in the city, we should find ways together.
That's right.
And so when your connection to Good News, I remember we were saying, hey, listen, if we could just figure this out with two organizations coming together, two ministries that just said, hey, listen, man, let's put our own, let's put all this aside and just come together and do what Jesus tells us to do. And Good News has been an incredible partner with this. I remember when we first approach, we were like trying to raise money to rent the building, but it's been like, what do you need from us?
That's right.
How can we help? And it's been an incredible collaboration. And I wanted to let you speak in a little bit about all that as a member. Maybe take the chief hat off and talk about the Good News board for a second.
So I find that happening all the time, and sometimes I actually audibly have to say that. I'm speaking as a chief. I'm speaking as a board member.
Exactly.
Whichever group it is.
Exactly.
But in that time, in August, I think it was August, that you and I had shared a lot. And not only had we vented, we visioned. And we talked about what could be.
Correct.
And what things needed to fall in place. And I just began to talk. It's homeless space, right? So I began to talk to other board members about, hey, this could possibly happen. This could possibly happen. And our board chair, Tim West, said, I want you to bring that up at the meeting, next meeting. So I brought it up. And it wasn't easy for us as a board because it was different than what we were doing. But Good News at Noon has owned that building, the Unity Project building. We've owned it for a few years now, and we've had some visions of what it could be, but it's never been timed right. And Tim used to say all the time that the 881 is Andrew, I got 881 fatigue. Because what are we going to do with that building, right? Because of its zoning, a lot of different groups were using it, wanted it. It needed some repairs. It was like, just a few.
Just a tiny bit of repairs.
This is a bad analogy, Michael, but I felt like we had the only vehicle in town, and it was broken down. But everybody wanted the vehicle because it was a car.
It's the only one that worked.
But it didn't have tires and wheels. But we knew we could get them, right?
We're hoping we could get them.
So it was our vehicle. And as we began as a board to have that conversation, the doors just opened that was like, hey, what is our role here? Our role is to be a steward of what God gave us as a board. He gave us that building. How can we steward it now? Because even if we had plans 10 years down the road, what are we going to do with it right now? And as we shared, I was like, well, had these conversations with Michael. I don't want to leave Bob Mudd out of it. I've had these conversations with Bob.
Bob's been tremendous.
I've talked to, Daryl Rochester's had these. All these people were talking about what
by the way, those guys
do.
are all board members.
Yeah, all your board members. Yeah. And it's like we have talked about what we could do, and these men and these businesses are behind it. And our board was just like, hey, let's open the door. Let's go have that conversation. Let's see what they can actually do if we just give them the space. And that's kind of how that Unity Project building took off, which only covered real estate.
Yeah.
Now you needed human resources.
Correct.
And I remember emailing you a list. You were asking for it to hurry up. Wherever I was, I turned around and went back. It's like, I can get this list to Michael via email of like, hey, because in 2016, I started working with the United Way. And the United Way has just put tons of efforts into the homelessness and trying to steward the collaboration there. And so I had a list from there. I called Jessica. I was like, send me all of the partners at the Compass Center. I just went through and was like, which one of these work in the homeless field? Started calling, hey, if this happens, I was just trying to describe the Unity Project without a name.
Yeah.
What if, and then I'll never, like, I'll use Jordan Rice at Jay's place. She's like, I want to support you, but I don't know what you're talking about. You're not clear on what you're telling me you want to do. And so I would try to explain it again.
It came together so fast.
Right.
It was changing.
Yeah, like,
I was having conversations, and I think I might have gotten mixed up too. We were saying,
imagine describing, a car to somebody before cars were made.
Yeah, exactly correct.
That's what I was doing is I was making these phone calls, my sister's place, all those were, and so fast forward, that's what the Unity Project was. And so when at the next board meeting, when we were able to go into this room and I say, hey, look, and I don't remember who said what, but it was like, if we let North Georgia Works take the lead in this building for the startup, and all these partners come on and they're there. Now, instead of, and we're going to talk about the mental health program because that's the same philosophy I had. Instead of having to go find the resource comes to you. I call it Little House on the Prairie medical treatment. So now if I'm sick, I got to go drive to the doctor, right? Yep. If you watch Little House on the Prairie from the 80s, the doctor went to the house.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we have to do in this homeless space is we have to go to the problem. So how can we put all of our resources, that resource-rich, coordination-poor, take all the resource-rich people that can help, put them in one space, and then have one group that coordinates that. Boom, we have some solution. Maybe not the solution, but some solution.
It's a pretty good one for how fast we're having to pull it together. But I just love that we've been all over the news and everywhere, and that these two ministries being linked together. Right. I think it's just a powerful thing to me that says, at the end of the day, and we've had a lot of church rallies around this too. We haven't had a chance to talk about that. But the pastors are.
That's right. The way churches pulled in, like Whit Martin called me and said, "Hey, come sit down. Let's talk about this. Tell me what you need from me." And it was like, "I need y'all to take the lead." And the next day, I got pastor friends like, "We're with Whit. We're in." And then that Sunday, there's 3 or 4 of my preachers talking about what you were talking about. They're preaching it from the pulpit.
They were there for.
It's just boom.
They were there one Friday, and the next week everybody's calling me out of the blue. We got paint donated.
That's right.
We got roof work being done. Like it's the church comes in
and no shade thrown to churches. But in the past, it seemed like maybe this was my perception that the church felt their role was money. And that they could write checks and then the organizations do whatever with it, right? That's not what I've seen in this project. I've seen money, but I've seen, like you said, supplies. But then we have other groups that say, hey, I want to volunteer.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, we probably, knock on wood, got more volunteers than coordination can work out right now. And I know you know that better than me.
It's a little tough so far.
Sometimes you can have too much manpower on a job site, but that's a great problem to have. We'll keep that problem as long as we can. I got a text yesterday, hey, it was the Oak Society, and they're like, hey, the Oak Society's lined up, and they know their role now.
They do know.
And they're getting to work on it, so that's just so cool.
Well, I think that's the church. I don't blame the church in this particular issue as much as they can be harmful sometimes by not knowing how to engage and maybe not doing it the best way. But even me and you, me and you walk down there with all our experience in the world, walk through that camp and be like, I don't know what to do right now.
100%.
I don't know.
Matter of fact, I did that more than once.
So I don't blame them. But what I do love is that when you say, hey, listen, I tell you what, we'll put the steps in front of you. You just got to take them.
Right.
And to watch so many churches and so much faith go, listen, okay, that's all we were waiting for was. If all of y'all are in on it, then we're want to walk right beside you. We don't want to have to pick sides. We don't want to, well, we do this with them, and what about with them? Like, listen, if we all have one common goal, we'll rally right around it. And so, again, I think that's what happens when two ministries come together.
That's exactly what happens.
And I think people have been waiting for strong ministries in this county to kind of get on the same page and to do some things. I look at the Springs Rescue Mission, and because I've been out there too. I remember when I first met with both the county and the city, that the first thing they said is, you got to go out there. And it's just a great example of what happens when government and the private sector willfully get behind a vision that a church puts out or a faith-based that says, hey, listen,
that's right.
We're going to also help. Jesus is here, but we also going to do a job. You support us, and we'll get the job done. And all of a sudden, an incredible display of campus and resources all come together.
That's right.
And we're already seeing it right now. We're a couple weeks into this, and we don't have and we're already... I can't imagine how it's going to keep going, right? Unless we just screw this up.
Yeah, I think it's going to keep growing.
Yeah.
I think the ministries will grow, and I actually think the service population will go down. Call me optimistic if you will, but I'm optimistic on this one that we'll see those numbers go down of who we serve because they're getting help. But you'll see the overall plan grow. I think I'd be remiss not to say a couple of things.
Okay.
I've been agonized for a little bit because I've known for about 6 or 7 months that the camp had to go, not because of the crime problem, because there's some work repair on that sewer line and on that stream that has to be done. The encampment's so large, there's so much debris in the stream that it's collecting down at Atlanta Highway, and it's causing unnecessary flooding into not just that encampment, but the surrounding homes and businesses. That's been a huge issue. And then I'm a cop, I'm not an engineer, but there's actually sewer line repair that has to be done.
Correct.
And so as a city, we had talked about in March or April, we got to have this conversation anyway. I don't know what the solution is, but we have to go in there and work. And when you got big tracos and bulldozers and everything else, you can't have people around that, right, from a liability standpoint. So I've known in the back of my mind, I don't know if I want to be the police chief and we got to go tell all these people to leave. And then, boom, the Unity Project was there. And as I talked to the mayor and the city manager and the city council, it was like, hey, there's an answer. And if we start this project before winter, they don't have to sleep out in the cold this winter. They can go sleep in the Unity Project building, and then we can go ahead and get our equipment in there and get this line repaired. Because as Water Resources will tell you, nobody cares about sewage when it's underground.
Yeah, correct.
But when it's not, everybody cares.
Got a little bit of a problem.
And so we gotta stop that. And so those are the things from a police chief standpoint that's been going on in my head. Is how are we going to shut this down? And now we have a way. So it's not like, hey, crime's so bad we need to shut it down. Probably so. But the impetus here has been that this construction project has to happen on this piece of property, and how are we going to do it? Yeah. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, I've loved it. And there's a genuine desire for most people in those kind of situations to get help if you can. I'm pushing a lot of our partners with the Unity Project. North Georgia Works is founded on a philosophy. We don't count outcomes. You can't control an outcome. In the world we live in, same with you. You just can't do it. All you can do is focus all your energy on the opportunities you create.
That's right.
Right? And if you create better opportunities, then people will start expecting more of themselves and start taking some of those opportunities. And over time, will we come back next year and homelessness to be a problem? No. But will you see things like you see with North Georgia Works graduates? The reason I'm able to go to the city and the county and get support is I've got dozens of men that are working,
amazing.
That are graduates and been working, that were in jail forever. Now they're employees of the county and the city, right? Did that solve the jail problem? No, you still have a full jail.
That's right.
But did we start making some headway? Absolutely. And I think what we are doing with this Unity Project is we are raising the bar on opportunities. And we are no longer saying, never once have me and you in this process said, well, we want to do this, but we're limited, so we'll stop.
That's right.
The answer is we're going to figure it out. we're just going to take the next step. The next step for both of us is we needed a place for the winter right now, and we needed a place for service providers to come together. Let's solve that problem. We're going to have to solve
There'll be more.
that. We're going to start helping people, but what's going to happen? They're going to take those opportunities,
Right.
and they're going to want more opportunities.
That's right.
And we're going to have to start providing those opportunities.
figure those out.
We'll do the same thing, right?
But we have the buy-in, and we got the people at
Correct.
the table that's ready to create that.
And I think we have the right philosophy, we have the right support. But again, two ministries coming together, leading the way. People follow vision, and that's what we got going on.
I do want to, say, because it does, you said you can't measure it. Like at North Georgia Works philosophies, we don't measure outcomes. So you had mentioned our mental health clinicians.
I want to talk about that, yep.
And so maybe that's a good one to end on, because
Absolutely.
that is our main role in this project from the police department. The police department's main role is how
That's their Unity Project contribution.
Yeah, that's our Unity Project contribution is our mental health clinician team. Just like this Unity Project, I kind of spoke some things to some groups 6 years ago now. And it took off, and now it's like flying, and I have no control of it. Although I get credit.
Don't have coffee with Jay Parrish.
Yeah, exactly. Visions happen, and Jay gets out of the way, and you're left doing the work.
Right.
That's right.
Works for everybody.
Yeah, it works for me. I just tell you what I want, and then you're like, I can make this. But so I'll go back to 2019. I was appointed as police chief. I'd done my whole career at the Gainesville Police Department, and one thing I saw was mental health was a huge problem. Like if you look into this encampment. And when we talk about mental health, I'm not talking about just bipolar and manic depression. I'm talking about anxiety, depression, but more than anything, traumatic stress syndrome. Like these people have suffered so much trauma that to unravel what's done in the brain is going to be difficult. Well, those were the people that we were having adversarial relationships with, from law enforcement to citizen. Those were the things that were causing bad media with police officers, or how we were interacting with the mental health community. And so I had a vision and found some funding, and then again it just grew to where if I could have a mental health clinician certified, a licensed practicing clinician, as part of the police department in our cars, because we were asking police officers who have 408 hours of training to do basic training, to do what somebody with 7 years of training was doing, and that's handling somebody with mental health, especially in a crisis. So really quick, some funding came together. A lot of the same funders that we're looking to right now for the Unity Project stepped up and funded this thing, and it ended up growing. So I started with one clinician at just a salary where she had to create the program and then work 2 extra jobs because we didn't have enough money, but she had the passion. She now oversees the whole program. We built collaboration with Brunel University. So the first 2 interns we had under her, I hired as clinicians. So then I had a team of 3. And then the Doug and Kay Ivester Foundation heard about what we were doing. They came over. They now fund 2 paid internships through Brunel for people taking a clinical path. So I have 5 people working for me. And finally, what's really crazy is the medical graduates at the hospital system that are part of the GME program in psychiatry. The psychiatrists, they come to us and they do a rotation as part of their psychiatry residency with the police department. So every 6 weeks I get a new psychiatrist. So I have an MD, all these initials down there, way smarter than I'll ever be.
Smarter, all of us, yeah.
But Maddie Weiss is kind of and Savannah Partey is like the lead for our team around the homeless community. And since Maddie's worked there as an intern and as hiring her as her first job, she's always been passionate about what goes on in that community.
They know them by name.
That's right.
And
they case manage them.
Absolutely.
And the whole philosophy with this mental health team is, I thought when we got a call that somebody was having a mental health crisis, they would go out there, diffuse it, handle it, whatever. That happens 5% of the time. They learn these people, and we have a case management system. And so it's things like, how do you get your medicine? How do I get you to good news clinics? How do I make sure you're taking your medicine? Maybe you deal with some kind of mental disorder and your family doesn't know how to deal with you. So now those ladies are training the families how to handle this person, making sure and explaining to them what the diagnosis is and how, because you can have a severe mental health disorder and lead a very functional life.
Correct.
As long as you're no different than drug addicts say, hey, I'll always live in
You
addiction. I
be
just don't do
functional.
drugs,
Yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll end with this. So when I started that program, I would ask, because it was being funded locally through local donors, hey, I need some matrix. I need some success stories.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Anjana Freeman, our lead clinician, was like, Jay, it's not about outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we may have some really good outcomes, and we do have some very powerful stories from that program, but don't measure that. We got to measure the little steps.
That's correct.
Every time that we don't have an adversarial relationship with that person again, and we got people calling 911 asking to speak to our clinicians because they're running out of medicine. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just end my part, unless you have more questions with this. You've heard the story of the starfish.
Correct.
That's my philosophy as a police chief. The story of the starfish with the little boys out on the beach. Hundreds of thousands of starfish washed up as far as you can see, and he's throwing them in the water. Old man walks up, and he's like, son, look to your left, right. That you'll never make a difference. Picks up one starfish, throws it in the water, says, well, I made a difference to that one. My place in this earth as a police chief, as a dad, as a husband, as a friend, community member, has never been to change the world. It's to influence and make a difference to that person I just put back where they go.
Well, that is a good way to end it, because I think that's what we are seeing manifest right now. I'm seeing it for sure. So I'll end by saying I'm not from Gainesville, right? I worked downtown forever. I remember when Doug came to me and said, hey, I want to start. I was an executive at Georgia Works, the big organization in Atlanta. This was North Georgia Works founded after, and he's like, I want to do this up in Hall County. Like, there's no reason to do this in Hall County. There's no need for it, right? Well, I don't even, whether there are 5 homeless people in Hall County, what are you doing, right? Never knowing that I'd actually run the thing one day. But I came up here to meet with him and realized that Hall County was a very different place. Very different place. And this conversation still kind of blows my mind. Even as we were talking, I'm talking to the police chief, talking about the same things. We're on the exact same page. But I think this all is manifest. There are some really cool things when you talk to people like Anjana and Savannah, and then you talk to people at other organizations, or Jessica, the United Way, or other organizations, you realize we're all very close to doing something.
That's right.
And then this Unity Project is no longer, we're not talking about anything anymore. We're there, right? There. Your clinicians are going to be able to bring people into a resource center. There are going to be people there to help them. All of a sudden, we're making some pretty big headway. It's going to be fun to watch over the next couple of years. I think it's going to be great to support. We're not going to be perfect day one. We are definitely pulling this together way too fast. So don't expect immediate into homelessness, but I think a couple of years from now, I'll say it right now on camera in a prophetic way, but I believe there'll be people from where we went to other cities to learn how.
I think so. Absolutely.
Other people are going to be coming to our city going, how do you do it? Well, go back and watch the video of the police chief
that's the
3 years
goal.
ago, right?
That's the real goal when you're trend setting, and people come to us to ask how you did it.
It's going to be amazing to watch. Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
I appreciate it helping me get here. There are some days I wish we had a little more time. But it's been a cool relationship to have, and I mean, you're going to be stuck together for a while. So let's go make it work, and I really cannot wait to see what God is doing through all of this. It's going to be fun to watch this in a couple of years and be like, man, we had no
exactly. We didn't even know what we were talking about.
Any more than we had 6 months ago, we had coffee where we would be today, right?
It's just the beginning, and it's exciting.
Well, thank you for your time, and thanks for all the support you give to our town, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.